What conspiracy theories do you think are too logical to ignore? Pretty sure I saw it here on Reddit at one point, but someone brought up the art trade. That these $1,000,000 art shows individual pieces that go for insanely high prices are just a way for money laundering. Tax write-off even. So a real estate friend of mine told me that if you made $1,000,000 you should get a shitty painting done, have a mate who happens to be an art critic or evaluator value the piece at $50,000, then donate that piece to charity stating its value. That allows you to claim a deductible of $50,000 towards your taxable income due to your charitable donation. Genius. Some torture devices such as the Iron Maiden were made up hundreds of years later so people would think, well, a regular hanger ain't too bad then. This is literally true as far as the Iron Maiden. I'm pretty sure one of the Simon Whistler things talked about this like last week. I could listen to that guy talk for hours about anything. This one is small and local but still too insane to ignore and just came up today. Just recently, our small suburban town's favorite gas station went out of business. Everyone went there. The guy who ran it was the mayor. He retires and sells the property after an issue with the ground underneath the gas pumps. They tear down the gas pumps and keep the garage. Mavis Tire bought the property and opened a new store. A few days after the Mavis opens, someone posts a picture on Facebook of an intersection at a road near it with nails all over the road. The guy theorizes that a box of nails fell off of a construction truck. The police come clean it up and it seems all is well. Fast forward a few days later and people are commenting on the post that they're finding nails in their car tires. Not just from that intersection. People jokingly say maybe it was the new Mavis guys throwing nails around but nothing really happens. Several weeks later, people have been posting day in and day out pictures of nails in their car tires. My dad took my car into the Mavis in question about 3 weeks ago and they found a nail inside of the right front tire. I noticed that it was driving sort of funny but never that my tire was on the verge of exploding. I jokingly said people have been saying you guys have just been going around throwing nails all over the place, trying not to laugh at how insane it sounded to say out loud. The guy behind the counter said nothing but yeah with a weird smirk. Over 50 people have posted on the town Facebook that their cars have had nails in their tires. My mom is driving my car now because her car has a nail in the tire. It's been almost 3 months. I'll post updates if anyone is interested. Edit, it totally might not be Mavis. There isn't any proof right now, and there are other possible reasons for the nails but the timing is too perfect to ignore. David Miscavige, the chairman of the Church of Scientology, definitely murdered his wife and is getting off scot-free for it. Him and his wife got into a pretty heated argument in 2007, and she hasn't been seen since. Lawyers hired by David claim she is still alive and devotes 100% of her time to work at the Church of Scientology, which is why she hasn't been seen since August 2007. In 2013, a former member of the church had filed a missing person report that was closed after a few officers had spoken and seen Mrs. Miscavige, even though there's no evidence whatsoever of this meeting. All missing persons reports now are turned down since this investigation is forever closed. Leah Remini has had it investigated as well and written letters to Shelley with no response. Before Leah left the church she wrote letters to Shelley that the church refused to deliver, and when she asked where Shelley was she was told she didn't have clearance to ask that question. The lead cop that was tasked to investigate when Leah filed a missing persons report, apparently after he came back with the bullshit she's totally fine and just doesn't want to be seen story, Leah found pictures of that cop speaking at a Scientology event. So crooked. Look at what happened to her mother. On the 8th of September, 1985, 52-year-old Flo Barnett, a longtime Scientologist, was found dead from 3 somewhat superficial rifle shots to the chest, and a fatal shot to the head. The autopsy also reported that there were slash marks on her wrists that may have been a few days old. The death was ruled a suicide. What? Why would she have multiple bullet wounds to the chest and head if she committed suicide? Flo Barnett, the mother-in-law to David Miscavige, did not kill herself. That bitch Debbie that used to work in accounting stole the succulent I had on my office desk. She always made comments about how much she loved it. Then she quit her job here and I come into work the next day and it's mysteriously nowhere to be found. Haven't seen it since. Came to the thread to say this one. So glad someone already did. Amazed that I haven't seen Gary Webb mentioned. Expose the CIA for assisting in drug trafficking and commit suicide with 2 bullets to the head. Worst case of suicide I've ever seen. It worked so well he shot himself a second time. Reminds me of the dude in India who was stabbed in the back 12 times with a knife and the police ruled it as a suicide. My friend's ex-fiancé, he disappeared after claiming he owed mysterious people money, apparently committed suicide by stabbing himself 8 times. Some people are just dedicated to their craft. Dr. Claw is the real Inspector Gadget. Human Gadget, Claw, was blown up in a terrible accident, causing everyone to think he is dead. Due to his disfigurement he hides from his family. Grief-stricken, his genius niece Penny builds a robot Uncle Gadget to fight crime and be the uncle she misses. Claw seeks to destroy the machine that essentially took his place. It's why we never see Claw's face, his screwed up voice, and I'm sure there is more I'm forgetting. Edit. Also, this is why Penny is never seriously injured and nothing happens to her. I always figured Dr. Claw was the prototype gadget that had gone wrong. Google Maps only asks you for feedback on its navigation when it knows it did a good job. I use navigation all the time, and I find that when it gets me to the destination on time or earlier than predicted, I get a notification asking to rate the trip. But if it gets me there after it originally estimated, I never get that notification. It wouldn't be difficult to program this into the program, so you're likely correct. Google probably figures they don't want to ask you right after they did a bad job. With all the scientists in the world, there has to be at least one secret lab on this planet where they have cloned a human. I mean, it's theoretically possible to clone a human being. The main setback is ethical concerns. Then again, when has that ever stopped some people? Our phones and all the apps on them are listening to conversation. I'm super anti-conspiracy theory, but this has happened to me way too many times in the last 2 years. I impulse shop really badly. I carry cash for the explicit purpose of I can use this guilt-free for an impulse purchase. 2 years ago I bought high-end lipstick with cash in a store after doing zero research on the brand. Next day I had ads for it despite never even previously hearing of that company before. I had only talked with a sales associate about the brand for a while. 6 months later a very similar thing happened when I switched hair care products to very specific brand. Later that night I had ads for their company which I had never heard of or looked up pre or post purchase. 8 months ago I ordered a cider I had never heard of at a bar in Nick. Didn't research the company or anything about it. Not even 2 hours after I left the restaurant I had ads for that brand of cider on my Facebook. There's easily 5-7 more times I could think of, but these are the ones that bother me the most because I am positive the transactions were all in cash. I had never looked up the product before, and I had very targeted specific ads from those exact companies less than a day later on most of my social media. Totally believe. Never did any research about martial arts or anything, but mention wanting to learn Krav Maga whilst grabbing coffee with a friend, and suddenly I get a ton of ads for Krav Maga and Jiu-Jitsu courses. New Coke was a way for Coca-Cola to switch from real sugar to corn syrup without people noticing. Switch to the new formula that everyone hates, keep it for a while so that people demand the old one back, then switch it back after enough time has passed that people wouldn't notice the relatively subtle change. The change is not subtle at all once you've switched to Mexican Coke for a while, which is still made with cane sugar. Going back to the corn syrup Coke is awful now. It coats your mouth in this weird gross way that is hard to ignore. With the number of billionaires that are psychopaths or similar, there must be a few super rich serial killers out there. By extension there must be people making money supplying victims in the same way Epstein was supplying girls to the wealthy who wanted to scratch an itch. With the money, power and influence would come governments and intelligence agencies willing to overlook or cover up terrible actions for leverage. This makes sense to me. When you can literally buy anything, the only interesting things become those things you aren't supposed to be able to get. The most dangerous game comes to mind here. What do you think about these theories? Share with us your favorite conspiracy theory, and don't forget to subscribe and join our small team.